Update Operation Overhaul is well and truly as it sounds for BattleBit. It is a true overhaul of the game from top to bottom and represents what some can consider a remaster. Yes, the game is already technically a remaster, so insert the classic remastered square joke here, but as we get geared up for this update to hit the live game, hopefully soon TM, it's occurred to me that if you aren't someone who scours through dev blogs, Reddit, or Discord channels on the regular, then you probably don't have all the details as to what exactly is coming in Operation Overhaul. And that is where I'm going to come in here today. Long and short of it, we are going to be going through every change or update that is currently set to hit the game in Operation Overhaul. For context, I'm going to have some screenshots and video clips supporting some of the spoken content that we go over here today, but for the most part, this video is just going to be listing out changes verbatim, so you can honestly just leave this video running in the background podcast style because, yeah, for the most part, the visual stimuli ain't going to be there. Anyway, we have a lot to cover here today, so to get the ball rolling here, let's kick off with what was the original namesake of the entire update and what put all of this in motion originally, the audio updates. And within that, the ambient sound updates alone already represent a lengthy enough list as it is. Ambient sounds will be added to match all of the map environments. Holding your breath while sniping will reduce ambient audio. Directional audio will be greatly improved. Sound will also be muffled by objects in the way of the audio source, with granular changes occurring as the source of the sound approaches or disengages. Dynamic sound indication will also be added, which will result in sounds traveling correctly through destroyed terrain and structures. Gunfire will also sound substantially different at varying ranges. Gunfire indoors and outdoors will also be distinguishable at a distance. So that's all the ambient sound effects. But then you have the player sounds on top of this. All player sounds, such as running, sprinting, vaulting, walking upstairs, will be updated and better synchronized with their animations. Vaulting will also have a unique sound. Players falling from high places will also make more sound on a landing. Enemy footsteps will be louder than allied footsteps with different audio cues to listen for. And from a weapon and gadget sound perspective, all weapon sounds, excluding explosives, will have brand new sounds in the game. Gadgets will also have new swap, placement, and pickup sound effects working with their animations too. Now, if you're like me and looking at these changes and already thinking, holy shit, this kind of sounds like enough for an update on its own, well, that's kind of the point, it already was. But I digress, that's not where we are now, and we've got to keep going. Let's move on to the general system updates, and this section is beefy. Kicking things off with a big one here, the core time to kill of the game is being slowed down to an average of approximately 400 milliseconds, where it was previously sitting at 250 to 300 milliseconds. I anticipate that as a result, we're likely to see weapons tend to sit anywhere between the 325 millisecond to 450 millisecond time to kill range. But moving on, the bleeding mechanic is set to be removed from the vanilla game, with community servers having the ability to re-enable the feature. Each class will now have 3 loadout slots in which you can save presets to hot swap between as required. Each class will now also have its own specific rank to grind out, their own progression trees to unlock gadgets and cosmetics, and class-specific perks, of which are yet to be finalized and we are yet to see. Further to that, new progression methods are being introduced to the game as well, which will be used to unlock, as an example, alternative armor sets. An example of a task might be secure 1,000 kills above 500 meters and destroy 50 gadgets. In addition, and on the topic of armor durability is being removed from the game in favor of each class having a unique health pool. For example, support players will have a larger health pool than assault players by default. The flinching is being reworked entirely as well, with the intent of providing a clearer visual indication as to where you're being shot from when flinching. Glow sticks on armor will glow within a 20-meter radius, with ally glow sticks glowing brighter than enemy glow sticks. Friendly icons on the HUD will now color themselves in a way that leads to less visual clutter when possible. A smorgasbord of new stats will be tracked at the player level, which I have now listed on the screen. The game's night vision has been reworked and will be losing its green filter in favor of a more modern night vision filter. Buildings and walls will now take take less damage per explosive source. Destruction is going to remain in the game, but it's going to take a little bit more effort to completely decimate buildings, at least by comparison to the current build of the game that we're all playing. Ambient occlusion will be added to the game as a toggleable option. Switching weapons while aiming down sights no longer forces you to aim down sights again once your new weapon is aim ready. You'll be unable to completely turn shadows off, and a slider of some description will be taking the settings place, and the game's VoIP system will be fine-tuned to normalize the loud and quiet peaks in player voices, making the volume at least a little bit more consistent and, reducing the times we get absolutely deafened by people running in-game music. But that's not all for core gameplay updates. Movement is also getting a bunch of significant changes in the game, and I know that some of you guys are going to be very happy about some of these changes. For one, all of the character model animations for running, sprinting, vaulting, prone, crouch, and running upstairs are being reworked. Harsh 180-degree turns will also cancel a player's momentum, forcing them to regain any momentum they had built up once again. Moving into a prone position will now hold a 2-stage animation, representing basically a nerf to drop-shotting, and to top that off, there's going to be a significant recoil penalty that is applied during this process. So yeah, drop-shotting in this game is going to be basically dead. Vaulting through very small openings that don't look physically possible will no longer be possible either. So sorry guys, the days of Elasta BattleBit soldiers is behind us once this update goes live. You will no longer be able to change into a prone or crouch stance while airborne, and the following movement mechanics are being added to the game as well. Ledge boosts, in which jumping off a ledge will provide a small speed boost to you, and tack sprinting makes its debut in BattleBit. Tack sprinting will basically activate when you maintain a straightforward sprint for a certain period of time, and it will activate a faster mode of sprinting that is notably faster. So once again, some pretty massive changes there, and while yes, BattleBit is going to retain quite a bit of, the speed that is built into its gameplay design right now, the nerfs that are here are well targeted and are actually going to, make a lot of the movement tech that some of the sweatier players have been, dare I say, leveraging far less of a crutch to utilize in combat to, stay alive longer. So yeah, some good stuff there. Now let's turn to some of the changes that are coming to the UI of the game, and spoiler alert, this is probably the stage of the video where you may actually want to start watching it, at least for a little bit, if you are listening to it like a podcast. The following UI elements are being overhauled: the in-game soldier HUD, icons for squad members and capture points, the overworld respawn screen map, of which will leverage new player icons, vehicle icons, and capture point icons, the scoreboard, the player and settings menu, with additional descriptors coming for certain settings to explain what they actually do, the player profile screen, the player death screen, and the overworld map will also provide elevation indicators and improved visual clarity. In addition, you will now be able to change which squad type your squad is as a squad leader directly in the respawn screen, rather than having to recreate the squad entirely. Enemies will now have a health bar appear over their head when they are damaged. There are also new indicators for grenades, drones, and landmines on your HUD when they're in close proximity. C4 will also show off an additional indicator when it's within lethal damage range. I'm kind of hoping this applies to grenades as well. There's also going to be an ability to customize scope reticles in the menu as well, with there being a wide variety of custom reticle presets with custom reticle colors to choose from. And on top of that, gadgets will now have a visual explainer video, which gives you a bit of an indication as to what different kit options will do. So once again, another very big and loaded section of changes there that's going to really modernize BattleBit, but the maps are also a big part of this update as well, whether it be new maps or map revamps. Across the board, all maps will now have a pool of lighting and weather conditions available to be selected from randomly, with options being individually weighted for rarity. Further to that, additional non-destructible objects are being added to maps to provide additional cover that, will stand the test of time as a match goes on. Doors are also being added across the game. They'll be destructible via explosives and also bargeable by sprinting through them. Sandy Sunset is getting a complete and total overhaul. I'm going to let some images play on your screen now just so you guys can get a bit of a look at this overhaul. And Wakistan is also getting completely redone. And while yes, some of those iconic bridges are going to be going away, they are being replaced by different and larger bridges, which should form some of the same chaos that we're used to getting on Wakistan, but it also looks like they're going to, dare I say, play a bit better with BattleBit's scale. But we aren't stopping there. There are new maps coming, like we said before as well. Aftermath, which is a rework of the old Namek map and is very much a city in just absolute disrepair. I'm personally very keen to play this map. We've also got Mesa coming to the game, which is going to bring forth with it a focus on urban combat, supporting conquest and domination game modes at launch. This map also looks like it's going to have a mean environment to fight in with a lot of verticality. And finally, Peaks, a mountainous map that is defined by its underground bunker, which will cater the majority of the fighting in the map. This is, in all honesty, going to be the Operation Metro of this game, if I'm looking at it right, which, in all honesty, looks like a blast. I really can't wait to play this map. So yeah, new maps to play on is also going to feel pretty good when it comes to this update. Now, we've obviously already covered one of the biggest changes on this list here in the general gameplay mechanics section, being the weapon time to kill update. But that's not the only changes that are coming to weapons and gadgets across the board either. Starting things off, C4 and RPGs are going to have their damage radius reduced across the board, but their overall damage will remain the same. Medium range scopes will also now have a cleaner sense of recoil, which is ultimately going to make them far easier to control for medium range firefights. Bipods will now have the ability to be deployed manually. Explosions are going to have new animations and effects now, which do look significantly better than the ones we have in the game now. And speaking of visuals, and let's just say general cosmetics, every attachment in the game, whether it be a magazine, scope, grip, or barrel, will have their mechanics and visuals completely reworked. There will also now be cosmetic variations of each attachment for us to grind and unlock with challenges as well. In addition, some weapons are going to be getting new attachment options, namely the Groza and the Ultimax, which will be getting new magazine attachment options to play with. For those who are curious, I'm going to let the attachment redesigns that we've seen so far run through on the screen before we move on here. But that's also not all, folks. There are also a ton of visual and progression changes coming to weapons as well. Weapon Mastery is being updated into a tiered system, with new unlock requirements that add some additional challenge to the mix. Copper Camo will now require 2,000 kills with a weapon. Silver Camo will require 1,000 kills with the Copper Camo equipped. Gold will require 1,000 headshots with Copper equipped. And the new Mastery Camo will require 10,000 kills with the base weapon. Weapon camos more broadly are also getting some updates, with the ability to mix and match some camos on the same gun, ability for camos to be applied to some supporter and creator skins, as well as the introduction of a new digital camo category as well. Weapon ghillie skins are also coming to the game in forest, desert, and snow varieties, and will be available on the AK-15, AK-74, L96, M110, M20, MK14, MK20, MSR, Remington 700, SSG-69, SV-98, and the SVD. Weapon charms are also set to be added and will introduce another form of long-term progression that is unlocked through certain in-game challenges such as objective captures, healing, headshots, etc. New account-wide prestige camos are coming. Weapon shading across the board will improve the weapons to give them a smoother look. Firing weapons for prolonged periods of time will create a glowing barrel effect, which is cosmetic only and has no penalties to the weapon. Belt-fed LMGs have had their animation system completely reworked, opening the door for support mains to finally get some more LMGs in the game, and the following weapons have received the following tune-ups: the Honey Badger, M249, Vector, L96, Scar H, M24, MK20, SSG-69, SV-98, Unica, Groza, Remington 700, and SSG-550 have had their factory camos updated to better incorporate some color, and the Vector, SG-550, G36C, M249, MK14, and 6 additional weapons have had their models completely upgraded, similar to the treatment that we've seen on other weapons. Sorry, listing a ton of weapons off like that got me out of breath for a brief moment there. But lastly, for all my bunker building buddies in the community, the buildable system in the game is also getting some updates and overhauls, which I know all 5 of you are going to be so happy to hear about. HESCO blocks, sandbags, and concrete barriers have had their visuals, building mechanics, and sizes reworked as per such. Sandbag walls now have the following build heights: Stage 1, a few sandbags will be visible on the floor, mainly to act as a building guide. Stage 2 will be a few sandbags that will cover a player in a prone position. Stage 3 will cover roughly half of a player's character model, with only your head being visible while crouching. Stage 4 will be only your head being visible when you're standing. And Stage 5 will be a 2-meter high wall that will completely cover the player's model in all stances. It's also worth noting that sandbag walls built to 95% will also include camo mesh on their model. HESCO blocks now have a maximum individual build height of 5 meters, and mixing various heights of HESCO blocks will allow for more effective barrier building, and concrete blocks will no longer vary in height after taking damage, and will instead show visible damage marks on their building themselves to represent, ongoing chip damage essentially. Oh my god, and with that folks, that is every single update that we know about so far in BattleBit Remastered's Operation Overhaul update. I'm pretty sure we just went over around about 100 individual lines of change, maybe closer to 150, and, I'm sure that there's a couple of surprises in the mix coming our way as well as the update eventually, hopefully drops. This video was a whole lot of me talking at you guys, but if you found it valuable, if you learned something, if you now understand the scope of the update that we're dealing with here, backhand the like button. It does go a long way to supporting the video. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We're doing a lot of first-person shooter stuff at the moment here, and I promise you that when this update for BattleBit does drop, we're going to be covering the absolute hell out of it. Let me know in the comment section down below what your most favorite and anticipated update in this list is. But until next time, guys, I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.